I was watching the Royal Rumble last week, and as I told you, we only have one TV, and for now because we have our TVs mounted. If you've seen the older episodes, the older videos, you've seen my bedroom background with my TV mounted. So because this is Super Bowl week, the Geek Squad has their whole like schedule backed up to like do TV installations and shit like that. So we're all sharing this one TV, my little brother's TV. That's kind of it's the only one that has the brackets to like stand. So I was watching the Royal Rumble on my laptop, and after the Royal Rumble, I basically been like my thing was left with the WWE network soon to cease to exist in about a month. It was open to that, so I started watching like old WWE pay per views, and I went on like a rabbit hole, and I started watching like Backlash from 1999, 2000, and 2001. And then I saw my boy, Eddie
Mm.
Guerrero, and it was back in the days when he had when him and China were together, and they had them coming in on the in like a old school like Chevy.
It's the first like pay per view, or whatever you want to call it now, that I watched since WrestleMania. I watched the women's Royal Rumble, and I watched the men's. That's all I watched. I
Yeah.
liked them both. They were like old school in a way where like it didn't seem like spots like every like minute like there was a new thing. It was kind of random. A lot of things were like kind of random. That's what I felt. Um, but it was I enjoyed it. Edge,
Yeah,
we talked about Lita recently too,
it's a
so
great
it was
story.
interesting that it came up.
These car, I was like, damn, like they're both no longer with us. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I know.
And it's crazy. Like I was like, I mean, God rest her soul, but I was like, damn, like China was actually like obviously after like a lot of surgery, I was like, China wasn't bad looking
Yeah,
in her later WWE
you can
years.
appreciate. Yeah, I don't feel bad about like appreciating that. Um, I appreciate that. Also just like the entertainment. Not only how she looks, but how her post wrestling career too. She was all over the place.
Hmm.
There was opportunities, and she came back in like 2010 in TNA, and like I watched the match. I remember watching the match, and I was like, she was good and everything, and she was just like, I fell out of love with it, and she's like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, it
Um,
sucks. It sucks because
so
she accomplished like a lot of things that women hadn't accomplished in wrestling, and kind of opened a door for a lot of the women now. And like she didn't get her flowers while she was here.
yeah, I know that's the set. That's pretty much like what they do now. Like they wait for you to die, and then they put you in, especially as
Hmm.
someone who's controversial. The only one that didn't was Ultimate Warrior, and that was bizarre because he died the next day, which
Yeah,
is insane. That was the
came out on
weirdest
Raw, and
thing.
then the next day you wake up.
Tuesday he died.
Yeah, one of the things like one of the barriers she broke. Talking about the Royal Rumble, my first Royal Rumble, and Mick Foley. I don't understand how you are still like walking
Yeah,
because
that
you're that Royal Rumble. I'm watching it, and you think you know me. Great story, because ironically, like the match before was Drew McIntyre versus Goldberg, and like Goldberg's had. I've joked about it on Twitter. Um, Goldberg's had more like title runs in like the last 5 years than I think he had like in his like big ass WCW run. Like the thing I said right after the Royal Rumble on Twitter, I was like, this is like Edge winning. That's the nostalgia fans want, not fucking Goldberg coming in and just being like, hey, I'm the child. I'm challenging you for the Universal Championship. Cause it's
yeah, well,
crazy. Like I literally remember, cause man, like the rated R superstar, like I really, really disliked Edge back in the day. I was a big fan of him, like when he was with the Brood, greatest wrestling entrance ever. I'm gonna say something controversial.
Yeah. All right. Let me hear it.
The Brood's entrance every night, coming up through the flames with the red lights and the music.
Chalice and all that.
Yes, it was better than any Undertaker WrestleMania entrance ever.
29. I watched it live. It was awesome, Undertaker. But I
Under,
understand. I agree
un,
with you because he did it every night. He did it every week. Undertaker was one thing, but the Brood is like that music is the late '90s music. Oh my God. I Mean Street
yo, Jim
Posse.
Jim Johnson,
Woo.
what's his name? It's
Jim Johnston with like a Johnston, not Johnston, I think.
yeah.
Um,
Listen,
but Mean Street Posse,
he
Brian Christopher's music. Whew,
listen, Timberland,
bangers. Yeah.
Timberland, Swiss Beats,
Hmm.
Jermaine Dupri, Babyface. Like, listen, Jim Johnston was in the fucking studio
Yeah.
creating fucking fire.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. But yeah, I was a fan of him with the Brood. I was a fan of Edge and Christian. 5 seconds of flash photography, concerto, them coming in as the conquistadors, all that stuff. And then he became the rated R superstar, obviously, with the shit we talked about with Lita and Matt
Hmm.
Hardy. And just seeing his career, like the arc of it, and he kind of starts off at the bottom, comes up with his best friend, which is something like they really literally him and Christian literally dreamed it, and like that was like a great part
Hmm.
in the that was like a great part of the match when they hugged each other, because it was like, dog, they've been best friends forever, and they really got to live out their dream together. um and then him going up, and then I just remember one. I think it was like my you're better historian, wrestling historian than me, but I think it was like after WrestleMania, he like the Friday night SmackDown, he comes out and he's like, listen, like doctors told me I literally can't wrestle no more. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it like life threatening? They said like his back,
Yeah.
it could kill him.
All right, so you brought that up. I don't think I ever thought about this until while you were mentioning the Royal Rumble '99 and all that. His arc, not his like actual career, it kind of mirrors one of my other favorites, Shawn Michaels.
Right.
Came out, tag team, went solo, got a little edgy, pun intended. Remember that the whole thing with Radar, that he was the whole sex thing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Shawn Michaels got really edgy. Um, then he had Shawn Michaels went on hiatus for the back thing, but also other reasons. But Edge had to retire until 2010, right after being like very successful in winning the Royal Rumble or something like that. Came back and he's 47 now. Shawn
Right.
Michaels came back. He was not that old. He was like 36 or 37. Stayed for another um 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's so Shawn Michaels like late 50s, mid 50s, like Undertaker. Um, so he's kind of on that course right now, which is very interesting. I never really thought about that, and um,
Yeah, so I'm really glad, like, cause it really wasn't like this year. It really wasn't anybody like you were like, oh, like he has to win. I think the closest person, it was like, oh, like he should win the Royal Rumble. It was Daniel Bryan, because I think Daniel Bryan said he's at the point like he's ready, to wrap his career up and kind of spend time with his family and stuff like that. So he was the one person, but Edge winning, I wasn't mad at it at all. Like every time like somebody wins, you're like, is this a guy? Is this a right move? And I was like, yeah, it is. Like to see him main event WrestleMania one more time, like especially when like you've seen Undertaker go on for so long, you've seen like and Triple H like main evented at WrestleMania not too long ago, so it's like yeah. So I'm excited. I hope he picks. I actually hope he picks Roman. But it's great. I love the fact that he came back and he stink because he really like him retiring. It really came as like a shock, and it was like the wrestling world was really there was like a big hole in the wrestling world without him in it. And I just remember like when he would appear on shows, I'm just remembering his speech, like tears and eyes, saying like, "Yo, if I do a spot like and my back explodes, like that could be it for me." So every time like he would pop up, like like him and Christian would pop up to promote stuff. Like this show was awesome too. Yeah, they would pop up and promote it and stuff like that, and then they would have like some kind of dude come into the ring and like attack like Christian, and then you're like I'm sitting there worried for like Edge. I'm like, no, 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 like I hope he doesn't bump into Edge. I don't want him to something to happen to him. To have that genuine concern from him, I mean, genuine concern for him, to now see him being able to come back last year in the Royal Rumble, have a great ass match with Randy Orton.
Yeah, it's interesting because like everyone's typing up Chris Jericho too. He's 50. He took on and off 10 years off too. If you think about it, he was doing like other entertainment things. So that's another person you can compare him to, Canadian.
Yeah.
So Christian, Edge, and Edge, I mean, was actually like married to Val Venus's sister. So all three of those dudes like kind of like came into WWF together.
Hmm.
And that's like a really nostalgic thing for me because like '98 was like when I was like watching it, very, very. I remember like, playing and then be like, oh my, it's 7:45. We gotta get in there and watch Raw or whatever time it was, like whenever Raw started back then. And
9 o'clock.
yeah, wasn't it? 8:57 was like 3 minutes early. It was like something like that.
Yeah.
And then you would hear like Jim Ross, everybody, during like Texas Walker. During it would be Texas Walker and be like, everybody tonight, come on, show up. Yeah.
That's coming back too.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, they the dude from Supernatural is the new Walker Texas Ranger.
Oh, wow.
I remember back in the day, like I would whatchamacallit, like because this is back when I was in St. Thomas, so in like my accent I used to be like I'll turn the channel to USA and I'll be like, oh man. So I'd say Walker Texas Ranger on.
Yeah, I thought that was corny. I never was ever. I will tell you this: USA had a show called Silk Stockings.
Oh yeah,
Oof, that was early on. I was like,
La Femme Nikita,
like looking through like the thing, like no one's watching, just like watching. Like USA was like very.
Silk Stocking, La Femme Nikita, Walker Texas Ranger, and Pacific Blue. You
remember G vs E?
Nah.
All right, so they were like the guys who died, or it was like Ghostbusters, kind of like or like they could see ghosts or demons, and that was a big deal. And then when season 2 started, they completely changed the whole thing. It was kind of like this episode of Simpsons where like there was this character named Homer Simpson, and he was like really cool, like a really cool like cop. And then like the next episode after the pilot, he was like oh no, he was like a doofus. And Homer was like, what happened? He's like, oh, they retooled it, So they retooled that show G for C. And yeah, Weird Science into it. USA was a kind of a real thing.
Oh, Vanessa Angel.
Yeah, I have the box set.